Islam Makhachev has spoken. He wants his next fight to be for the welterweight title after he gets by Charles Oliveira, that he says should be pretty easy yet again. He thinks a similar game plan should be effective against Oliveira. He finishes him and then eyes the welterweight title fight between Leon Edwards and Colby Covington. But he specifically has an opponent in mind. He would rather fight Colby, he says. He wants to fight Colby over Leon for a couple reasons here. He says Colby is a guy who's calling him out already. He doesn't know if Leon wants that fight. And he thinks Colby Covington would be a difficult matchup. This would not be easy, as Colby is bigger than him, and according to Islam, he even admits Colby has good wrestling, good cardio. He's gonna be a difficult matchup, but he wants to test that American wrestling with his Dagestani wrestling. And it's interesting because he's never gone against an American wrestler on the level of Colby Covington before. He's never fought an American wrestler who can actually pose some threats in that area against him. So here's exactly what he said when he talked to Brett Okamoto about an hour ago. Quote, I don't know what the UFC has planned, but my dream is for the second belt. Of course, I'm under contract, so whatever the UFC says, I will fight no problem. But Edwards versus Colby, I really believe I can beat the winner. I look at their skills and what they have as champion, and I know my skills as well. It's going to be a good fight. I'm not saying I'm going to beat them easy. It's going to be a hard, tough fight against a big guy, but I believe I can finish those two. Unquote. So that's interesting. You're going to see later, he says that Oliveira is going to be an easy fight, but he says that Leon and Colby are going to be difficult fights, as both those guys are bigger than him, and they have a good skill set as well. But he thinks he would finish them regardless. Then he goes and says this as to why he believes he deserves to go up and fight at welterweight after this. Quote, I gave a chance to that guy, Volkanovski, so they have to give me a chance too. I gave a chance to a guy from another division to come up to my weight and try to take my belt, and he lost. I want my chance too. Unquote. I would love to see Islam versus Colby Covington, man. That would be such a great fight. I'm all in for it, but he's not correct when he's comparing his situation to Volk's. Just technically speaking, some of the details here are not the same. I see what he's saying, but Islam didn't go on a run the way Volk did in the featherweight division, right? Volk had multiple title defenses. He had like 4 or 5 or something. Islam only has 1, and if he beats Charles, he would have 2. Volk also did not have a credible contender lined up for him yet. We had to see Yair fight Josh Emmett in order for that to happen. Islam has a contender up against him if he beats Charles, and that's Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje's gotten quite a few title shots, but he never fought Islam. Islam has never went up against Justin Gaethje, and the guy just knocked out Dustin Poirier, beat Rafael Fiziev as well. So it's a different situation with Islam as champion compared to Volk, as to why Volk got the chance to go up to 155. But here's the thing though, if Islam beats Oliveira easily, a fight for the welterweight title is going to be massive. That's going to be a very big fight, and I can just see it happening, regardless if it's like the same situation. The only thing I disagree with Islam is that he's comparing what Volk did to come up to 155 with his situation going up to 170 when they're objectively not the same. If Islam beat Gaethje and then like another guy, then yes, it would be similar to what Volk did. But right now, even beating Oliveira again, it's not the same thing because there's multiple contenders lined up to fight Islam. Whereas for Volk, there wasn't. It was Max Holloway, and he lost to Volk 3 times already. Then he goes to talk about who he wants to fight specifically. Quote, I hope Covington wins, because I don't know what Leon says about fighting me. I've never heard Leon say that he wants this fight, but Colby wants it. That's why I want Colby to win and we can meet one day. It would be a very good fight. He has good wrestling. It's going to be US wrestling versus Dagestan wrestling. He's a good fighter. He has good wrestling, good conditioning, but in my opinion, I stop his wrestling and land many good punches, unquote. So obviously he wants to fight Covington more than Leon, because if Covington beats Leon, his path to go up to 170 has a higher likelihood of happening. And that would be a massive fight. One of the biggest fights of maybe next year, because that's probably where it would happen. Colby versus Islam could probably sell anywhere from 5 to 700,000 buys, and that is a massive card. The fight would also be very interesting. Islam is saying what he's going to expect to do against Colby's wrestling. He says he's going to stop it and then pretty much outbox him. Sounds similar to Kamaru Usman's game plan against Colby Covington. Defend the takedowns and just outbox this guy. But in those Kamaru Usman fights, it showed it's not as easy as it sounds, man. Colby can really surprise you with his strikes. And if Islam is going to fight him, he also should not be underestimating Colby Covington's striking as well. Just like people underestimate Islam's striking, he shouldn't be underestimating anybody else's either. Do I think that would happen though? Do I think he could stop Colby's takedowns? And I can see where he can do it. Islam has sharper punches, he's faster, and he hits harder than Colby too. I think it's better fundamental boxing overall than Colby, but Colby is so chaotic with what he throws. It could even throw Islam off, who's very defensive. You know, if Colby's like coming out there swinging and trying to overwhelm him with strikes, I don't know how Islam's going to react to that. Maybe he goes under for takedowns. I think though Colby and Islam would both take each other to the ground at some point in the fight. We've seen both guys get taken down by other fighters, so I think them two especially can take each other down at that point. You know, if RDA can take down Colby and Thiago Moises can take down Islam, I'm pretty sure Covington can take down Islam and Islam can take down Covington. Who would I favor in this matchup? I would honestly favor Islam. It's not just because of his wrestling and better striking. I think it's more because of his submission ability. I think he can submit Colby if it goes to the ground, whether he's on his back or he's on top. And overall, I think there's going to be more damage done by Islam than by Colby Covington. But I ultimately do think that Islam could probably submit him somewhere in the fight. And then at the end, this is what Islam says about Oliveira. Quote, "That fight reminds me of the time he gave up. When he watches this fight, he remembers everything that happened there. He tried to push me and land some punches, but when he doesn't have insurance, he just gives up. This fight is interesting for the people. Everybody wants to see this match again. But if I follow the plan, I can beat this guy easy again. I believe that." Unquote. So yeah, he thinks that if everything goes smoothly, he should be able to beat Oliveira easily just like last time. And he said Oliveira's a quitter as well. So hopefully he's not underestimating him, man, because these two guys are the top of that division. Anything can happen at that level. If he underestimates Oliveira even a little bit, he could lose this fight. Now, there are bad parts about this fight. It's not only a great fight, gonna be fun to watch, massive pay-per-view numbers, both fighters gonna get paid a lot of money, the card is probably gonna be stacked. The downsides of having this fight is you're gonna hold up two divisions that have contenders lined up. For welterweight, there is Belal Muhammad, who's rumored to fight Kamaru Usman, but as of right now, Belal Muhammad is the guy next in line for a title shot. And in the lightweight division, there is Justin Gaethje. If Islam fights Colby Covington, that fight's probably going to happen sometime in the spring, early summer, I would guess. That would mean that Justin Gaethje and Belal Muhammad would be waiting toward like fall of next year to fight for the title. That's a long time off, man. It'd be pretty crazy for these two to wait out that long. Gaethje would have to wait out like a year and a couple months. And at that point, does he just risk fighting somebody else? Does he go up against Beneil Dariush? Does he go up against Gamrot? Those are the only two guys that would make any sense. Maybe Charles Oliveira coming off the loss against Islam? But Gaethje's pretty much made it clear that he wants to wait out for his title shot. But is there a time limit on that? Because if Islam fights Colby, he's going to be waiting out for a long, long time. We know Colby doesn't fight too often. Islam has been pretty active, right? So credit to Islam Makhachev for fighting often. Colby's had some stuff going on outside the octagon that's held him out for a long time, so he hasn't been active. And I don't know if he becomes champion if he's going to get active. I have no idea. Historically, most champions fight less often than when they were contenders. That would be a long time off, man, and holding up two divisions like that is not going to be good. So there is an exciting part of having Colby fight Islam, but then there is one that just isn't fair for the contenders.